Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Recovery Capital for Small Businesses from the New York Forward Loan Fund, presented by Empire State Development. Many thanks to our presenter, Matt Kennedy, and to all the participants for being with us today, and to our educational series sponsor, Chemung Canal Trust Company. Please note this webinar is being recorded to share what we learn with the business community. Matt will share his presentation with you, then follow with time for questions and discussion. Please use the chat to submit any questions during the presentation. And just a reminder, when others are speaking, to please keep your audio on mute to minimize background noise. With that said, I'll turn things over to Matt to start things off.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So my name is Matthew Kennedy. I am from Empire State Development, from the Division for Small Business and Technology Development. I'm actually based out of our statewide office in Albany, getting ready for the snowstorm like everyone else. Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the New York Forward Loan Fund, and also on the second program that we have, the JDA Agriculture Loan Fund, which is something that I know wasn't on the agenda, but I think is something that may be useful to some of the people that are listening today. So the New York Forward Loan Fund is going to be the primary talk. And what I'll do is at the end of the presentation, I'm going to leave a spot where we can answer any special questions that you might have about the program. And then we'll go on to the JDA Loan Fund. So the New York Forward Loan Fund is a new economic recovery loan program that was created by New York State and the Division for Small Business to help small businesses, nonprofits, and small residential landlords as they reopen after COVID-19. And it specifically targets small businesses with 20 or fewer employees, which works out to a little over 90% of businesses in the state of New York, and along with nonprofits and small residential landlords that have seen a loss of residential income, of rental income from their properties. Now, these are working capital loans of up to $100,000, and so they are working capital, so they can be used for a variety of purposes, including inventory, marketing, refitting for social distancing, and so forth as you reopen, or if you never really closed, as you continue to try to recover and pivot from COVID-19. And now, these loans are specifically available to small businesses and nonprofits that did not receive a Paycheck Protection Program loan of greater than $50,000, an economic injury disaster loan of any size. However, a EIDL grant, the economic injury disaster grants that were offered by the SBA are allowed. Those grants could have been up to $10,000 if you did receive one. They're actually no longer available from the SBA. Now, I want to point out at this moment that when this program began, it was originally designed to exclude people that had received Paycheck Protection Program loans entirely. The idea was at the time that it was early on, this was May when the program first began, and there were a lot of businesses that were unable to take advantage of Paycheck Protection. So we were specifically trying to target those businesses. Over time, as Paycheck Protection continued on and got more money from Congress, it became obvious that a lot of small businesses were not getting enough money out of Paycheck Protection, and excluding businesses just because they got a small Paycheck Protection loan wasn't really fair to the process. So the process got changed, and now those protection program loans of up to $50,000 are allowed. And the reason I point this out is because this is really a snapshot of what this program is today. And we continue to look at the marketplace, and we continue to look at what's happening, and continue to look to see who needs additional funds. So if this is a situation as I go through this, if there's something that I bring up, say 20 fewer employees, or getting a Paycheck Protection program loan of over $50,000, or receiving an EIDL loan, if there's something that has excluded you from this particular program, and you still think you're looking for money, I would strongly suggest you keep your eyes open, keep your ear to the ground, because this program could end up changing. It could change in days, weeks, months, months ahead. And I'll do my best to try to get the word out that the program has changed, but that is very possible. So like I said, this is a snapshot of the way the program is now. So to continue on, for small landlords, for small residential landlords, it specifically targets people with residential buildings of 50 units or less, and it tries to prioritize loans for residential landlords where properties are in low to moderate income census tracts. and who serve low to moderate income tenants. These loans are not forgivable, part or in whole. They're not like the Paycheck Protection Program. They do need to be paid back over a 5-year period with interest. We'll go over that in a couple moments. In addition, at least 60% of these loans are expected to be made to minority and women-owned businesses around the state. There's a 60% goal. It's part of this fund. The fund has well over $100 million in it, so there is a lot of capital available. So how do you begin? How do you apply? Well, we have a pre-application portal that's set up online at nyloanfund.com. So www.nyloanfund.com. And this is where you begin if you're interested in this program. All applicants go through this portal, through this web page to begin the process. It is not a first-come, first-served loan program. So there is still money available. Applications are continuing to be reviewed on a rolling basis. So don't feel that you didn't jump in early, you're not going to be able to get any capital from it. That's really not the case. Now, the simple way to begin is when you go to this page, and it's actually right here on the right side of the screen. That's an actual screenshot of the page. There is a pre-application button at the top, and there's a apply now button at the bottom. So you can start from the top or the bottom of the page. Simply click on one of those two buttons, and it will begin the pre-application process. It's going to lead you through a series of questions. It's probably going to take you maybe 5 minutes at best to go through the pre-application questions. They're very quick, and I'll be going over those in a little while. So there are 5 community development financial institutions that are lenders that are accepting applications through this program. And the point of the portal is that the portal is going to help you determine, or it's going to help direct you based upon the answers to your questions, your region, your type of business, the amount of money you're looking for. It's going to direct you to the lender best suited to help you that's in the program. If you don't apply directly to the lender, please don't apply directly to the lender. Please go through this portal. The lender is going to need to use this portal to gain access to the funds in the program. So if you try to go directly to the lender, they're just going to direct you back to the portal. It's just going to slow things down for you. Now, for lenders, for small businesses, Ascendus, which used to be known as Axion East, the National Development Council Impact Loan Fund, Pursuit Lending, which used to be known as NYBDC or Excelsior Growth Fund, and True Fund Financial Services are the 4 lenders for small businesses. For nonprofits, it's through the National Development Council Impact Loan Fund and True Fund Financial Services. Excuse me. And for small landlords, all small landlord loans are going through the Community Preservation Corporation. So that's a good thing to point out at this moment. If when you go through the application portal and it goes to match you to a lender, if you are a small landlord and it has not matched you to Community Preservation Corporation, there's a mistake someplace in the answers to your questions. So you're going to want to go back and make sure that you've answered the questions correctly before you choose a lender, because for small landlords, the only lender is Community Preservation Corporation. So now for small businesses, I want to talk a little bit about the loan terms. Obviously, that's important. So again, these are working capital loans of up to $100,000 on a 5-year term. And the amount that you're allowed to borrow is the lesser of $100,000 or 100% of your average monthly revenues for a 3-month period prior to the COVID-19 outbreak. So now, this is an important differentiation between the EIDL programs and the PPP programs and New York Forward Loan Fund. Especially for PPP, PPP was based upon your payroll. This is not based upon your payroll. This is based upon your revenues. So there were a lot of smaller businesses with just a couple of employees that for PPP purposes were not able to borrow very much money because it was based on your payroll calculation. This is your revenue calculation, and it can be for any 3-month period in the year 2019 or January through March 2020. So if you're a seasonal business and you do more business in the summertime, you can choose May, June, July as your basis for how much you're allowed to borrow. If you're a retail business and the 4th quarter is important to you, October, November, December, you can choose that as your basis to borrow. Makes it much more flexible and really raises the ceiling for how much small businesses can borrow through the program. Big difference between the SBA programs. Interest rate wise for small businesses, it is a fixed annual rate of 3%. So it's 3% fixed for the life of the loan. Everyone who qualifies for a New York Forward Loan Fund gets 3% as a small business. Repayment terms, 5 years, so it's a 60-month loan. For the first 12 months for the first year, it is interest only. So you're only going to be making interest payments for the first year. And then for the remaining 4 years, months 13 through 60, you make interest and principal payments. They're also paid monthly. Now, your use of proceeds. Again, this is working capital. So you can use this for a variety of purposes: inventory, marketing, refitting, for social distancing, property taxes, maintenance, payroll if you needed to, utilities, rent, supplies. There's a very broad range of things you can use the money for. The one thing that you can't use the money to is to refinance existing debt. So you cannot refinance an existing loan with money from the New York Forward Loan Fund. That's one important distinction as to what you can do with the money. Aside from that, it's very broad and very open. The loan applicant is going to be required to detail their anticipated use of funds when they apply. So as part of the application process with the actual lender, they're going to ask you what you want to use the money for. There are no application fees. There can, of course, be late payments or late payment fees if you miss a payment. There are no collateral requirements, and there are no prepayment penalties. So you can always prepay the loan early without penalty before the end of the 5-year term if you feel you're in a position to do so. Now, to be eligible for the Forward Loan Fund, a small business needs to meet the following requirements. And again, these are the requirements at this moment in time. You have to employ 20 or fewer full-time employees. And a quick rule of thumb is that that's full-time employees. A part-time employee would count essentially 2 for 1 as a full-time employee. So you could have up to 40 part-time employees. You have to have gross revenues of less than $3 million per year. So $3 million is your gross revenues in 2019 or less. You have to have either not received an economic injury disaster loan or a paycheck protection loan of greater than $50,000. And again, you can have received an EIDL advance grant of up to $10,000. You have to, of course, suffer a direct economic hardship as a result of COVID-19, and that's pretty straightforward. I think everyone really has. You need to have been in business for at least a year as the date of loan application. So we want you to be in business for at least a year as of the date of loan application. And you have to be headquartered in and do business in the state of New York. So it has to be a New York-based business to apply. And the pre-application should be completed by the primary owner of the business. Anyone who owns more than 20% of the business, if you're a partnership or if you have a more complicated ownership structure, is going to be required to attest to the information that's part of the application. So now, excuse me, for some ineligible businesses, there are certain businesses that are ineligible for these programs. This is pretty common for all government-based loan programs. Corporate-owned franchises, not-for-profit banks, not-for-profit social clubs, branch banks, payday loan stores, pawn shops, astrologers, palm readers, liquor stores, nightclubs, adult bookstores, massage parlors, strip clubs, track ranging facilities, marijuana dispensaries, etc. These businesses are usually excluded. They're the quote-unquote sin businesses that are usually excluded from these programs. This is really no different than any of the SBA programs. Now, for documentation. Now, I want to point out that when you go to complete your pre-application, you're really not going to need any documentation handy. The pre-application part, where you're beginning the process, is very straightforward. And this information is information that ultimately the lender is going to be looking for when you go to complete the rest of the process. After you've completed your application, the lender is going to be looking for this data to underwrite your loan. So, your most recently filed tax returns, generally they're going to want probably 2 years or a year and a cash flow analysis of what's happening in 2020, since we're so close to the end of the year now. Obviously, you haven't filed your 2020 taxes yet, and or some internally generated income statements, so documentation that they can use to determine your cash flow, of course. Your schedule of ownership, who owns the business, that's going to include their name, address, phone number, etc. There's an executed attestation form you're going to have to complete. The lender's going to provide this form. Basically, it's a form that says that you didn't receive an EIDL loan or that you haven't received a PPP loan greater than $50,000. It's a disclosure that they'll make you sign. You'll need a brief description of your COVID-19 impacts on jobs and revenues. Really also goes along with how you're going to use the funds, that use of funds statement. Evidence of your legal formation of your business. This where the documentation is. But your articles of incorporation, etc., your organizational documents for your business, your DBA, and if you are a small business, personal credit report for anyone with a 20% or greater ownership of the business is going to be pulled. And the lender is going to pull that. You don't have to worry about that, but the lender is going to pull that. They'll have you sign a disclosure to pull the data. And the lender, again, is going to reach out to the loan applicant after you've gone through the pre-application process to start collecting this required documentation and conduct credit checks and to finalize the review process with you. So now on to small landlords. Small landlords have a little bit different calculation. I'll go through this a little faster since a lot of it is the same as the previous. So for small residential landlords, again, their working capital loans up to $100,000. For small landlords, it is the lesser of $100,000 or the projected reduction in 6 months net operating income based on their actual lost income from April or May 2020. So if you're a small residential landlord and in April, you would usually be able to collect $25,000 in rent from your tenants. You're only able to collect $15,000 in rent from your tenants. That means there was $10,000 in rent you were unable to collect. That's your lost income for the month of April. You'd multiply that by 6, get $60,000. $60,000 is the maximum amount you're allowed to borrow. So for small landlords, they have the same fixed interest rate of 3%, the same repayment terms, 5 years, interest only for the first year, interest and principal for the remaining 4. The same use of proceeds, again, can be used for anything except for refinancing existing debt, really. Most small landlords are going to use it for maintenance, property taxes, utilities, supplies, things like that. Loan applicants, of course, going to be required to detail their anticipated use of funds. There are no application fees, can still be late payment fees, but no collateral requirements, and the borrower can always prepay if they feel they can without penalty. So now for eligibility for small landlords, things are a little different. It's not based upon your revenue or your number of employees, it's based upon your number of units. So you're not allowed to own more than 200 units with no single property of greater than 50 units. And again, those properties need to be located in low to moderate income census tracts or meet a rent test where property rents are affordable to low to moderate income tenants. The lender's going to go through this with you, but essentially what they're going to do is they're going to look at what you're charging for rent and use a percentage calculation based on the median income for the area where they're located. So properties should have a positive cash flow for a 12-month period prior to the New York Forward Loan Fund request. Properties need to either be in an active forbearance, which means that your current lender, if you have a mortgage, recognizes that you're having a hard time paying right now and is adding your mortgage payments to the end of your loan. They're not actively collecting your mortgage payments. That's acceptable. Or proof that you have not missed a monthly debt service payment for the last 12 months. Or, of course, you can have no active mortgage. Property should be current on their property taxes through March 2020. Property owners must attest that they're not going to evict COVID-impacted non-paying tenants. It's actually for 90 days after closing or whenever the moratorium changes for the state. And property should be in good repair with no life and safety violations. So for the evictions, it's 90 days from the date of closing or when you're allowed to, based upon the law, whichever is later. And also, of course, you have to have suffered a direct economic hardship, been in business for at least a year, the date of the loan application. And this is important to note, properties need to be located in the state of New York. So you can't use a New York Forward Loan Fund for your Airbnb in Florida. It does have to be a property in the state of New York. And the pre-application, again, should be submitted by the owner with the largest ownership interest, and owners with more than 20% interest are going to be required to attest to the information. Documentation-wise, documentation is, again, it's very similar. Most recently filed tax returns, your 2019 income and expense statement, probably going to need a draft of your 2020 income and expense statement now too, since December. Property rent roll. This is an important change for a small landlord. You're going to need your rent roll that shows your economic impact. It's going to show who your tenants are and what they should be paying, what they've been able to pay. Your schedule of ownership. Your executed attestation form again about paycheck protection and EIDL loans. Hardship letter, which is going to detail the impact of COVID-19 on your business. A forbearance disclosure statement if your mortgage was in forbearance. Again, evidence of legal formation of your business entity, articles of incorporation, etc. And personal credit reports are also required for small landlords with a 20% or greater ownership interest in the properties. And again, the lender is going to reach out to the loan applicant to collect the required documentation, conduct credit checks, and finalize the application review process. So now last, a little overview of nonprofits. Nonprofits work a little bit differently than the other two. So for nonprofits, again, they're $100,000 loans. And in this case, it's the lesser of $100,000 or up to 100% of your average monthly expenses for a 3-month period. So it's based upon your budget. So average monthly expenses for a 3-month period prior to COVID-19, again, it could be the same basis for a 3-month period, any 3-month period in 2019 or January through March 2020. Once again, this is an important change from SBA because in this particular case, really this is going to depend upon your organization and what your organization does, what 3 months you're going to want to pick. If you are a nonprofit that is, let's say, a summer camp, then obviously you're going to want to pick your months in the summer because that's where your expenses are highest, and that's when you'd be able to have the largest basis for how much money you could borrow. If you're a food pantry or a food bank, you're probably going to have the largest budget the holidays, probably right around now. So you can use the 3-month period around the holidays as the basis. Now for nonprofits, a little bit different interest rate. It's a fixed rate of 2% for nonprofits. It has to do with where the money comes from in the fund. Repayment terms are the same. The first 12 months are interest only, paid monthly, and the remaining 4 years are interest and principal, paid monthly. Same use of proceeds. Again, you can use the proceeds. They're working capital proceeds can be used for a vast variety of things, except for refinancing existing loans. You can't refinance an existing loan. Once again, you're going to be required to detail your anticipated use of funds when you apply. No application fees, collateral requirements, and no prepayment penalties. And also, wrong direction. There we go. Nonprofit eligibility. A little bit different when it comes to eligibility for a nonprofit. So to be eligible as a nonprofit, you have to be organized as a 501c3 organization. So you have to specifically be organized as a 501c3. You can't be a 501c6, unfortunately, or a faith-based organization. Well, I want to point out that if you are a faith-based nonprofit, you can't use the funds for the support of religious worship or activities. And that's really where that detailed use of funds comes into account and why that can be so important for a nonprofit. You have to employ 20 or fewer full-time employees again, very similar to a small business, same rules for part-time employees. You have to provide direct services to New Yorkers. So an example of a direct service, something that's direct to the public, a daycare service, a legal aid, a senior shuttle, an educational program, a clothing bank, a soup kitchen, or a food bank, after-school programs, something that's going to go directly to New Yorkers, directly to the general public. You have to have an annual operating budget of less than $3 million per year. The same paycheck protection rules apply to nonprofits. So you have to have not received a Paycheck Protection Program loan of greater than $50,000 or an economic injury disaster loan, although again, you can receive an economic injury disaster grant if you were able to get one. So those are closed now, so no one else is going to be getting them. And you have to have suffered a direct economic hardship as a result of COVID-19, of course, been in operation for at least years, the loan application, and the nonprofit needs to be located in the state of New York. And the pre-application should be completed by a member of the nonprofit's controlling panel or controlling board team. And they're going to be required to attest to the information. So now, as part of the application for documentation, slightly different for nonprofits, your most recent audited and reviewed financial statements are going to be most important, along with your internal financial statements. Your IRS Form 990, which of course is your equivalent of a tax return. Evidence of legal formation of your nonprofit. That's obviously important. You're going to have your bylaws for your nonprofit, your articles of incorporation as a nonprofit. The attestation form, once again, that you did not receive a Paycheck Protection Program loan of greater than $50,000. Information on the nonprofit's executive team member that's going to be signing, which is basically their personal information, but you'll notice we don't pull a credit report. There's no credit reporting required for that person. when it comes to a nonprofit. There's no credit checking as far as credit reports are concerned with nonprofits. You're going to need board approval from your board of directors and resolution to borrow, and a brief description of your COVID-19 impacts on jobs and revenues. That really goes along with that use of funds document. And then once again, the lender is going to reach out to the loan applicant to collect the required documentation and conduct credit checks and so forth. So now I'll take a minute and I want to go over the actual application questions. So these are the actual questions that when you go to our New York Loan Fund site, these are the actual questions you'll need to answer to begin the process. And I'm going to walk through them really quickly, and you'll see that they're very straightforward, and it's something you can do very quickly to start your process. So question number one, how much money do you need to borrow? How much money do you want to borrow? You know, we just really went over how you're going to calculate that, but you're going to want to put in how much money you think you need. It doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be close. It can change after this process. It can change during the process. It can go up or down depending on your talk with the lender. So you're just going to want to try to make it as accurate as you think you can at that moment. How much money you think you're going to need to borrow. And I want to point out as well that just because you're allowed to borrow $75,000 never means that you have to borrow $75,000. So, you know, if you feel that you can get away with borrowing less, you can do that. You're not required to borrow the maximum amount that you're going to qualify for. Question number two, how do you plan to use your loan? Again, these are working capital loans, so please select working capital. It's going to give you a drop down, and it gives you a drop down of lots of different uses for the loans. And you can't use it to start a business, by the way. You'll see drop down number two. The way this website works is it works for multiple programs, not just this program. So it's one of the reasons it answers this question or asks this question. You have to answer this question. And in this particular case, these loans are only for working capital. So all you need to do is select working capital. There is a prompt on the screen to request that you do it, but still sometimes people miss the prompt. So please select working capital. When do you need financing by? Now, most people are going to answer today. They want it now. They want it done right away. This is really more of a guidepost as to the urgency of the need and the health of your organization. So, you know, answer honestly when you think you need the money, but the lender is going to basically look at this and be able to get a sort of a guide as to how desperate your need is. It's not going to affect the match. It's not going to affect how you're matched in the system. It's more of a bit of information for the lender. Tell us a little bit about your business. Now, this is going to affect your match. Question 4 is going to ask for the name of your business, the industry that you're in, your time in business. Again, small landlords are going to want to select landlord as their industry. I would suggest if you are don't select real estate, make sure you select a landlord. And if you're a real estate-based business, let's say you're a real estate broker or you're something that is based in real estate, but you're not a landlord, I would actually suggest choosing other and not choosing real estate, because it seems to help with people getting matched to a proper lender. If you choose real estate, it has a tendency to make people to throw people in that landlord category, and CPC won't be able to help you if you're a small business. So I think you're better off just selecting other, because everyone can match to other. It's important to also note that you have to be in operation for at least a year. So this is one of the questions that can knock people out if they choose that they've been in operation for less than a year as their answer. It's going to prevent you from getting matched by the website. Now, the next question, this obviously is important. Where is your business located? You're going to want to put in your legal address for your business. I would not use a P.O. box. Street address is definitely preferred. And one of the things that the website does to make things easier for the lender and to make things easier for the borrowers is that it uses your business address and it parses out where you're located, your county, your economic region, your census tract. It parses all that information out automatically, so you don't need to figure it out for yourself. And it's one of those things that the website uses to match you to a lender. So please make sure you put in your proper legal address. That's very important for the way the matching system works. And it's not going to be able to match to a P.O. box. So if you've got a street address and a P.O. box, you can put them both in. But try to make it a legal address that the system can understand. Next question, how should we reach you? Obviously, this is important too. You're going to want to put in the contact information for the person who's going to be working on this application, their email address, their phone number, and select how you want to be contacted and how you prefer to be contacted. Nonprofits should use somebody from their organization's executive team, of course, best using the primary owner of the business. Please monitor this channel when you've selected it. So as soon as you go through and you do this match, watch your email, listen for that phone that you're putting in, the phone number that you put in, listen for it ringing. It might take a couple minutes, it might take a couple days, but you're going to get contacted back by the lender. And especially when it comes to email, make sure you check your spam folder, check your junk mail, make sure that it hasn't fallen into your spam folder. You know, these organizations are sending out hundreds and thousands of emails. It's very easy to get your email address or your email domain get caught in someone's spam filter and get marked as spam when it's very hard to get your domain unmarked as spam. So it's a situation where it's a continual battle to make sure that your emails are getting into people's email boxes correctly. So please check that and make sure that you're not getting your emails caught in your junk email folder. Next question, what was your revenue last year? Want to answer this as best as you can. Remember, you can't go over $3 million for revenue, and just try to be accurate. And again, this is your revenue. This is revenue from your business, not your profit, your revenue. So this is your gross sales. Did you earn a profit last year? Question number 8. Simple answer, yes or no. If you chose yes, it's going to ask you how much you think it was. If it was no, it's going to skip over this question. Now, you don't need to be profitable to necessarily get matched with the Forward Loan Fund. There are lenders that can help businesses that aren't profitable. However, it's going to affect the matching outcome. So if you're going to want to try to answer this accurately, I would try to answer either, if you don't know off the top of your head, come as close as you can. You may want to refer to your tax return. See what your tax return said for your net profit, because it is one of the important matching parameters for the website. Now, question 10, a few more details about your business. This is where you're going to want to detail how many employees you have. So if you have 20 or fewer employees, you're going to want to mark it in here. Small landlords are going to want to use the number of units they have. And it's going to ask you about prior bankruptcies. Now, prior bankruptcies do not disqualify you from receiving a New York Forward Loan Fund loan, but the number of bankruptcies you've had could. So if you've had a bankruptcy, that's not going to disqualify you, but if you've had 3 or 4, that could disqualify you. So you're going to want to answer that as accurately as you can. Question 11, do you have collateral to support your loan? The Forward Loan Fund does not require collateral. So you do not have to have collateral. You can choose none, and that's fine. However, if you do have collateral, or if you do feel like you would have collateral to support a loan, you can always select those items. It's not required. It's not a matching parameter, but again, it's one of the things that's built into the site. So it's going to ask the question. Question 12, how much revenue do you expect to make this year? Select an estimated range. Some businesses are going to make the same sort of revenues, or are going to be in the same range they were the previous year. Some are going to be lower. Some might even be higher. That's fine. You're just going to want to select the revenue estimate that best fits your business for the year 2020. Question 13, do you have a business plan? Now, again, you're not required to have a business plan to qualify for the New York Forward Loan Fund. However, if you do have a business plan, then you probably have useful information already in place or already in hand for the lender, as far as your financial projections, your market analysis, your overview of your business, and so forth. So it is a good thing to have. If you have one, go ahead and mark yes. This isn't going to affect your matching, but it's going to give the lender an important piece of information as to how prepared you are to go through the process. Question 14, is your business owned by a woman, person of color, a veteran, or an LGBTQ identifying person? Now there's 2 questions in a row here that are linked to each other. If there's someone in your business, 20% or greater stake in your business that meets one of those categories, you're going to want to choose yes. If you do choose yes, it's going to move you on to question 15. If you choose no, it's going to skip over question 15. But question 15 is a select all that apply. So you're going to want to select all of the categories that fit for your business. And I do want to point out that for the purposes of this program, you do not need to be New York State certified to be considered an MWBE or WBE or an MBE or even a veteran business. So you do not need to be state certified. You don't need to have gone through that process. You can go ahead and still select it. It's not based on New York State certification. And the final question, question 16, what is your personal credit score? And it's going to request that you put in the range that you think your personal credit score is. Of course, this is going to be verified and checked, but just put in what you think your best guess is where your score is. It's an important post that it's going to use for the lender. And now, once you've gone through all those questions, you've hit your final submit, it's going to take you to a matching screen. So in this particular case, this business was looking for $100,000, and they matched to 3 different organizations: True Fund, Pursuit, and Axion Now Ascendus. This is a little bit of an old screenshot. But you match to one of these lenders. All 3 of these lenders can offer you a match in the program. You're going to want to choose whichever one you feel more comfortable with, and you can choose some details if you want to see a little bit more about the lender. But again, the program is the same between lender and lender, so the terms are all the same. And choose Connect. It's very important you click Connect. If you don't click Connect, your information is not going to go to the lender. So you may have gone through the entire process, gotten to the screen, think, oh, I matched, I'm good. Nope, you have to click Connect. There's one more step. Otherwise, the lender's never going to get this information. Choose Connect. It's automatically going to take you to the next screen, which is going to be a confirmation of your selection. You're going to get this on your screen, and you're going to get this in your email. You'll notice in this particular case, this person selected Axion Now Ascendus, and you'll get a match screen saying you've completed your application, and now watch for contact. And please, again, watch your spam filter. This is so important to watch your spam filter. And they're going to attempt to reach out to you as soon as they can. Understand that some lenders have a bigger backlog than others, but generally people have been getting back to you within the next couple days. You'll usually hear something from the lender. You'll hear something back to begin the process of completing their application. So those are the main questions. Now on to some special notes and some special resources. Some things I want to point out that are important. Participating lenders are responsible for making their own credit decisions. So participating lenders are ultimately responsible for deciding if you qualify for a loan. As much as we might like to affect their judgment and their decisions, we can't do that. Program requirements and limits are as of the date of this presentation. Again, this presentation, this is the current state of the New York Forward Loan Fund and what the current requirements are. They could change. It could be open to more businesses down the road. I doubt it's going to be open to fewer, but it could be open to more. So if for some reason there's a limiting factor in this presentation that's going to keep you from qualifying, keep your eyes open if you still need money, because the program is going to continue to go on, and once the demand is satisfied for the smaller businesses, we may open it up even further. Who knows? Again, due to that high demand, the number of New York Forward Loan Funds will be limited. The program is not going to run forever. It will eventually close. Due to the limited amount of funding and the high volume of requests expected, your business type, geography, and industry may factor into your ability to receive a loan. What that essentially means is it might reach a point where we have to cut off one region or another. Say if New York City has received too many loans and upstate hasn't had access to enough capital, there's a possibility that we may have to change the dynamics as to where the money gets to go if the money starts to run low. Submitting a pre-application is not an indication of eligibility. The funding can be approved. Of course, it's just a pre-application. We do recommend you apply as soon as possible. If the website is overwhelmed, we recommend checking back. Website's operated very well, I have to say, but you only need to go to that website one time. A borrower should really only submit one application. The loan terms don't change from lender to lender, and multiple requests can slow your process down. So if you noticed how that previous example, 3 lenders matched, you really only need to select one. If you were to go back to the process 3 times and select 3 lenders, you won't get 3 loans. You still only get 1 loan. But what it is going to do is it's going to slow down underwriting because they're going to have to figure out which lender gets to do the loan, not to mention that it can cause confusion because you might start answering multiple lenders and think you sent this lender the information you needed to send them, but you didn't. You sent it to the wrong lender. It's not worth the hassle. Just choose one lender. And since the loan approval criteria are so similar from lender to lender, if you're declined by a lender, there's no need to reapply to another lender because they're going to give you the same decision. Now some special notes on some example payments. I think this is a good thing to take a quick look at. This is an example of 3 different sizes of loan and the way that interest-only payment works at the beginning. Again, like I said, interest-only payments for the first 12 months and then the principal and interest for the remaining 4 years. See, there's a bit of a jump in payment, depending on how much you're borrowing, of course, to cover that principal payment as well. But when they're looking at your cash flows, they're going to be looking at they're going to be trying to project what they think your cash flows are going to be after the crisis is over and whether they can cover that bigger payment. So that's an important thing to point out, an important thing to look at. And you'll see that there's 2 columns there, one for 3% for small businesses and one for 2% for nonprofits. And now some free assistance for preparing applications. In addition to programs like this, the Small Business Division has various technical service programs that can help you. Things like our entrepreneurship assistance centers around the state. There's 24 centers around the state that can help you with business plans, can help you complete loan applications. You may even hear from them in the process because they're also helping the CDFI lenders collect up information since they have so many applications that they're processing right now. They're even helping in that regard. So you might get a call from an entrepreneurship assistance center on behalf of one of the lenders. Small business development centers around the state, that's actually really, they're more closely tied with the SBA programs. They are generally going to be at SUNY campuses around the state, but they're partially funded through the SUNY system, and they're also a terrific resource, especially for federal programs. Community development financial institutions that are not part of this group. Again, these are non-traditional lenders. There are other community development financial institutions around the state, and I believe there's probably at least 70 of them that are part of a network that received funding to help people with business plans and collecting up documentation for loans, and they can offer technical services beyond just offering you loans and money. There's the Business Mentor New York COVID-19 Volunteer Task Force, which is one of our programs. This is an online site where you can set up a free account, and successful businesses and executives from around the state have signed up to offer free counseling, free mentoring, pro bono mentoring to small businesses looking for assistance with various things, including how to pivot from COVID-19. So it's definitely worth checking out. And again, that is totally free. There's our ESD Small Business Division website, and specifically for small landlords, the Small Landlord Program is primarily controlled by the Homes Community Renewal Agency, New York State, and they have set up their own page to help you. So now questions and answers. So if you do have any questions, I want to look at the chat window, and if you do have any questions, you want to type them in here. So we'll talk about this for a little bit, then we're going to move on to the JDA program. And what I will say, if you have not received a question about receiving contact from a lender, what I would suggest is if you have applied and you have not heard from a lender, if you have the original email that you received when you matched should have contact information on it. If it doesn't, or for some reason it doesn't, don't be afraid to reach out to me, and I can try to get you contact information for the particular, for wherever you're located. As far as speeding the process, for some reason you haven't heard from them. Like I said, a lot of times it is in your spam filter. Some of the lenders, depending on their location, like I said, they can be running a little bit behind. So if you have applied for this previously and you're having an issue, I'm going to type in my personal email address, or I'm going to type my email address here into.
Matt, this is Kamala Keeley with the Chamber, and I just wanted to let
Yes.
participants know that Candace will send out the recording of this presentation, as well as your contact information, as well as I think we usually send out a PDF of the presentation itself. So we know it's a lot of information that you've all been taking in, and we will do a follow-up email that has the information in it, and it'll also be posted on our website. So we're not going to cut you off in terms of communication.
No. and I just noticed on my screen just turned white. Do you still have the slides up? Can you still see them?
Yeah, no, it's white for us too. I think Candace.
There it goes. Okay.
There we
Something
go.
happened. I'm not sure what happened. Yeah, and I just typed into. I'm going to type it into the public, just in case you need it.
Perfect.
It's very simple. It's matthew.kennedy@esd.ny.gov. So
Perfect.
pretty straightforward. And now I also have a question about nonprofits. There was a question about nonprofits that had someone who had tried to apply. I'm not sure when you tried to apply as a nonprofit, but one of the things that has changed, I mentioned the program has been changing over time, is the minimum revenue requirements for nonprofits have changed. So they actually lowered the minimum revenue requirements for a nonprofit for your annual revenue. There's a threshold, I think, of $100,000. A nonprofit needs to have an annual budget of at least $100,000 to qualify. It can't have a $25,000 budget and qualify. So that number changed, and it is possible that you may have applied prior to the number being changed, because it's changed in the course of the program. So if for some reason you were declined or you're unable to get matched, it's worth going back through and looking at that again, because those parameters have been changing. And that's one of those things, like I mentioned, as the program has evolved and as we've watched and we've looked and we've seen, where people need help, we're trying to make these changes to the program. Of course, we have to have the lenders involved in the process too, but that's one of the things we've been trying to do. So don't be afraid to go back into the site again. You can go back through and try to match as many times as you want. It's not a problem. But that is something that I would definitely take a look at. So if we don't have any other questions, I would say let's move on. Do we have any other questions beyond that? And I said, if there are any specific, if you do have any specific questions regarding matching or difficulty, you can always, if you're listening to this, you can always send me an email, and I can try to give you a little more guidance as far as the way the matching system works, or at least try to give you some idea. I can't affect matches, I can't force a match, but at least I might be able to tell you what the answer was or what the reason was why you couldn't match. So now I would like to move on to the Agricultural Loan Fund. So now the JD Agriculture Fund is sort of a bonus presentation, and it's only going to take a few minutes. But this is a fund that we have specifically for agribusinesses, for agriculture-based small businesses around the state. And when I was looking at the attendee list, I thought this might be a good thing to add to my presentation real quick. So the Agricultural Loan Fund is specifically for agribusinesses around the state of New York. So there are 7 million acres of farmland in the state of New York. And this is a loan fund that is specifically to offer money so agribusinesses can expand. So this is really not so much a recovery program as a post-recovery program, or something for the future, because we're going to get through this in a year. Hopefully, we're going to be back to normal, and if we are, you're going to be looking to expand your business. And it is specifically for agribusinesses, and it's a very broad category of agribusinesses. So value-added processors, food distributors, food aggregators, beverage producers, food hub participants. A brew pub would qualify because you're a beverage producer. A winery would qualify. any number, a cannery would qualify. A beet processor. I know there are some beet processing or companies in central New York that have taken advantage of some of our programs. All those types of categories of business will qualify. There's $10 million in JDA capital that's being provided through lenders around the state. The loans, so they're specifically for expanding your business, and the loans can be anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 plus. So they are term loans, they are fixed term loans. The lenders are making the credit decisions and determining the interest rates and terms with their applicable fees. But these lenders have specifically been selected because they have very reasonable rates and very low fees. And most of these loans are generally going to be in 10-year terms. And again, those eligible businesses, food processors, food distribution companies, wineries, breweries, distillers, cider producers. If you have an agriculture-based business and you think you're interested in expanding, you need some money for maybe new equipment or building the building, moving into a new market that you're not currently in, anything along those guidelines, this is definitely a place for you to look. So now, where to apply? So we have 8 lenders around the state. Most specifically, Pursuit again is listed. They are doing loans statewide, but also closer to you, organizations like Pathstone, and RADC, and Stedo are offering these loans. So I'm including their information here. If you have a small agribusiness, I would strongly suggest, if you're looking for capital to expand, you take a look at this program. It's been a terrific program. It is really an upstate focused program, which I love to see. And it has been around now for about 18 months, and it's been super successful. We've done lots of loans already, but there's still a lot of money left. So please take a look at that if you're interested. And if you have any questions about that, you can submit them here, or you can always contact me offline, and I'd be glad to make an introduction to you to one of the lenders to try to help you expand your business. So I said just a couple moments to talk about that. So do we have any questions from anyone wrapping up about either of those two programs?
Matt, I did just want to remind participants too that we're watching the $748 billion that's before Congress right now, which would include additional PPP for businesses. So the Chamber's keeping an eye on that. I think, we're hopeful that is going to go through, in which case businesses will have some more relief through that avenue. But, we really can't stress enough that businesses need to take advantage of the federal programs, but they also need to take care of, the New York Forward Loan Fund, the REDAC grants, and other, low interest loan options like the EIDL in order to get through this crisis. We're finding that a lot of businesses are just looking for one avenue to get through it, and you really need to maximize your ability to get through this financially by using all the resources that are available. And we understand it's pretty scary to take on additional debt at this time, but it's got to be kind of a multifaceted approach to be successful in most cases.
Yeah, and actually I will point out with EIDL, I said the EIDL grant program has ended, so they're not currently offering those. So the EIDL interest rates are actually a little bit higher than the Forward Loan Fund.
Yes, they
are. So the Forward Loan Fund has a shorter term than EIDL does, but a better interest rate. So, well, if we don't have any other further questions, so again, my name is Matthew Kennedy, and thank you for listening. My contact information is there on the slide. But don't be afraid to reach out to me if you have questions. I want to thank everyone thank you for hosting me. Thank you for having me to get this information out. And like I said, if there are changes to the program in the future, don't be afraid to check back. I'm going to try to make sure everyone knows as soon as possible if there are changes, if there are improvements or additions to the program.
Thanks so much, Matt. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. So thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Yes.
So.
Yes, thank you, Matt. And as Kamala mentioned, we'll send out the presentation and reporting to everyone later today. And I'll just quickly mention, if anyone is interested in chamber membership that's not currently a member, you can contact the chamber at info@chemungchamber.org or call us at 734-5137. And thank you to Matt and everyone for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe and have a good holiday.
Thank you.